Hello. Austin, will you help me get up here? Thank you so much. Anyone who got a good view, you're welcome. I'm so happy to be here. Everyone, welcome to the 6:45 Alcoholics Anonymous meeting at the Wrong script. Everyone, hello and children, welcome to another very special report of exile from the Hawthorne Barn. We're so happy to be here. It is me, Saltine, internationally renowned art historian, anti-philanthropist, and good deeds archivist. What is exile? I hear the ignorant among you uninterestedly, half-heartedly murmur to your neighbor. Exile is the little spit of land in the Stellwagen Bank where all the rejects of Provincetown get sent off to. Who are the rejects of Provincetown? I hear the privileged among you half-murmur, half-heartedly to your neighbor. They are the people, buildings, trees, gardens, and businesses that had become a part of Provincetown, had contributed to its character in some way, whose beings had imbued the town with the sense of bohemian freedom it has come to be known by, and thereby creates the space for others to be free, who were all given the boot. Let's say their housing becomes too expensive, or the landlord sells to Ryan Murphy. Or their store finally succumbed to Amazon's domination of small business, or they were ripped to the studs to make clinical condos and plastic-looking homes for queens to live in for 2 weeks out of the year. But don't fear, these people, these places, their magic was not lost. All of these rejects are brought to exile, to live how they should, in freaky, artistic, bohemian, completely unrealistic space. I am the teller of the isle, and it's my duty to share these stories with you. And boy, do we have a lot to discuss tonight. But first, I just want to address the elephant in the room. I'm pregnant. But honestly, we all can see there's something in this space stealing my thunder. And that would be James, who took my Australian Shepherd Thunder, has not given him back. I need him. Please. Okay, but jokes aside, there's something in this room that is just in the way of me being seen fully. And that is the fact that half of you refuse to acknowledge that I am gluten intolerant. It simply divides the room in half. And I can't handle it. But dears, before we get into this episode, I just have some thanks to Alice. Where are you, Alice? Alice, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, honestly. This is such a thrill for me. So, Alice, thank you so much. To be in this space, like what a dream to be here, so I'm just so thrilled. And then we do have a legally mandated word from our corporate sponsor. Are you a diehard liberal? Are you pained by recent setbacks with basic freedoms and rights in this country? Do you want to fight the conservative right? Well, don't waste your time trying to have open conversations with people with different political opinions than you. And why bother with the futile act of expanding communities' access to voting when you can pay a major corporation to play board games? Here at Guess Who, The Racist, we have plenty of board games for you to exercise your liberal rights, and they are sweeping across New York, LA, and all of Massachusetts. Here are some of the hottest new games we have this season. Want to fight the lingering effects of colonialism? Well, why not play Indigenous Rights Activists of Catan? Do you like high-stakes, high-energy games? Well, why not try our version of Sorry? Same name, new goal, reparations. Or how about playing Scramble, the game where you misgender someone, then spend half an hour trying to apologize without seeming inappropriate? Similarly, try Boggle, the game where you're asked to say words in a different language, and if you pronounce them wrong, the group shames you by saying, "It boggles me how insensitive you are." Or how about Trivial Pursuit? Explain they, them pronouns to Uncle Sal. No matter which way you like to avoid doing the actual work of social change, we at Guess Who's ... the Racist have a game for you. And don't worry, they're all available on your iPhone. So next time you're waiting for the few meager likes to come in from your preaching to the choir tweet about January 6th, why don't you pull up a board game? No need to look anywhere else, because we got the monopoly on them, available on Amazon. Thank you. Wow, I am so thankful for corporate sponsors. It's people like them that give me the way to afford this $20 thing I found at a thrift store in Chicago. Isn't it gorgeous? But y'all, I have not been to Provincetown in 6 months. I was last here in November. Isn't that actually crazy? I've just been on exile, and I've had such a crazy, busy winter. I spent all of January carving ancient runes into my warts, so that when I walk around our dunes, I leave messages for the aliens. I got a wicked head start on my garden. I've been starting my seedlings early internally. And then I've been working with this amazing publisher at the University of Massachusetts Press, Brian Halley. And we have been, yes, thank you. We have been putting out this amazing collection. Our late librarian on the aisle, Shebra, wrote a beautiful collection of erotic poetry called A Cat Has Two Claws. Reach around. But seriously, this winter, I didn't leave for many reasons. I was busy, but also, and to be earnest, and I hate being earnest, so much so that when I put on the Exile production of The Importance of Being Earnest, I changed it to The Importance of Being Bernice. But I hate being earnest, but I will say, seeing the laws that are sweeping the country, for a while, not that I ever felt physically unsafe to do what I do, but the culture changed, and it is very difficult to do what I do in certain states now. And for me, I think I internalized a lot of that, and I don't think I wanted to come out from exile for a while because I did not feel maybe safe internally. So it's very important to have representation and to be out and to be present and to not let people's crazy laws that are protecting our children keep us from doing what connects us as a community. So I'm just so happy to be here and to support our Second Amendment rights to have guns, and I will not let them keep me back. My firearm is right here. All right. I don't normally do fancy venues like this. This is very nice for me. Who here saw my first work? With collaboration with Karen Capato at the Julie Heller Gallery. Anyone remember that? Yes. Alice told me not to lean. I'm just going to lean for a second. You see these heels? This is what performing in not fancy venues looks like. You're about 6 inches into the sand, in not a fun way. So it's very fun, but I don't want you to think I'm not fancy, because I'm very fancy. I have been known to swim in buckets of caviar when I was having sex with an employee at a caviar factory in Minsk. I've also spent hours at Versailles. I even watched a prostitute be pulled out by her hair. And you know what's so surreal and meta is seeing yourself being dragged by the French police in the Hall of Mirrors. I've also spent how many beautiful mornings and evenings waking up in some of the finest houses along the West End in Provincetown. After I've lied and said I was an antique window refurbisher and stolen my way in. And I have to tell you, those Egyptian cotton sheets are incredible. Your view from the second floor, babe. It's incredible, but I do not know why you keep a bowl of clams in the bathroom. Weird. But this space, how amazing is this space? This space, so historical, such an icon of Provincetown, the 20th century Provincetown. You know, it was here that Eugene O'Neill heard Charles Hawthorne fart while he was teaching a class. And that gave him the inspiration for the opening foghorn in The Long Voyage Home. It was incredible. What building is more iconic, Provincetown, 20th century? The only thing I can think as a competitor is maybe the men's bathroom at the Beach Forest. I can tell who got that joke. And you know why you got that joke. But yeah, there are certain buildings on the mainland that the people on exile fight about, and the Hawthorne Barn is one. Half the community on exile want this building to be torn to the studs, ripped down, bulldozed, because they want it on exile. Because every building that we destroy on the mainland, they get to play in on exile. So some people are like, rip it down, we want that. And then the other half is like, no, leave them something on the island. I'm kind of mixed bag with it. But I'm biased because I'm the only one who can go to and from exile to the mainland, and I come in here all the time uninvited. Do you know how easy it is to open a barn door with a hangnail and a belief that private property is bullshit? I've done amazing things here in the winter. I held a prom here, what was that, 87? Oh my God. I put the kids in here with a couple bottles of Negroni. Have not drank in a while, forgot Negroni isn't bottled. Put them in here, let them alone, and it was amazing. The amount of kids that were born that spring was... It's funny, actually the producers of Teen Mom reached out to me to maybe do a possible collaboration. And I think they know because I have a history in television, which a lot of you know. I think many of you here know that I was a producer on the Middle Eastern version of Clarissa Explains It All. Harissa Explains It All. But yeah, one time, I recently actually came in here and I held a seance for all the old town moderators. And it was pretty incredible. Consensus was we're heading towards white gay fascism as everyone dismissed the affordable housing articles at the town meeting this year. But I also did, my favorite thing I've done in this space was I did a one-woman performance of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Bought the rights for the script, bought the set. Didn't read the script at all. Instead, I just performed the scene in The Hours when Nicole Kidman makes out with her sister. The review for that production was so glowing, it was like a bald man's head at Herring Cove. But yeah, that was an incredible time. But actually, my godson, Sullivan, do you know my godson? Who here knows my godson? I'm assuming nurses at the mental health hospital in Hyannis. No, but he actually landscaped here. I feel so bad for these people. You can see his work all throughout the land. There's those stunted roses down in the front. There's a couple piles of feces he left in an act of aggression. And then under the barn, he actually carved, "I hate landscaping," 20 times in Farsi. So that was cool. But yeah, he wanted to come tonight, and I just said, Code, I just don't think so, because he doesn't know how to handle himself in fancy places or around wealth. I think you've probably noticed that. He cannot handle wealth, but I can, because I grew up with wealth. Do you know how many CEOs were regulars at the bathhouse I grew up in? And do you know how many men in the Irish mob I dated at 17 years old? And that wealth is dirty. And I also, my own experience of having personal wealth was when I finally won that bet with Oprah, when I said, yes, Martha Stewart would get caught. So wealth does not scare me anymore, but he really wanted to meet Margaret Atwood. Cody wanted to meet Margaret Atwood, who's going to be here on the 6th, which I am secretly hoping Alice will give me a secret ticket to. I'll volunteer. I'll open Topo Chico, I don't know. But yeah, Cody was in Boston this winter. And that tells you all you need to know about Boston. No, Boston has its pluses and its minuses. Plus, Whole Foods. Cody has lived on Cape Cod for 3 years before he moved. When he saw fresh vegetables, he literally kneeled down and started crying. Oh my God, there's Swiss chard that isn't brown. There's gluten-free gnocchi. And there's a hot bar. There's a hot bar. Negative side of Boston, a minus. When he was sitting with those $100 tiny bag of groceries and that $20 hot bar little thing, sitting outside on the patio, he had to avert his eyes at the poor people experiencing homelessness who would have begged for even a banana. Not easy to eat $20 of fancy food when people aren't eating next to you. So minus. I get to live in this lovely bubble here where homelessness doesn't exist. Boston plus. Travel. You can go to Amherst and it's not a full day event. You know what I mean? That's pretty great. Anywhere on Cape's 2 hours plus. Boston minus. Getting from his home in JP to his work in the South End was the same commute as going from Boston to Amherst. It's amazing to me that in a city that has the highest tech, most amazing, we're literally learning how to make mRNA things eat the virus. They understand, I don't. But they're doing lots of crazy scientific things, and our train system is literally like a dial-up modem. Boston plus. In the sober community in Boston, there are people under 60. So that was pretty cool. Boston minus, there were a lot of 20-year-old Latino bottoms who distracted Cody from his sobriety. I'm gonna have you help me down again. But you guys, how was your winter? Did anyone do anything fun? Oh, you got it. Thanks, Papa. Thank you. Anyone do anything fun? I'm not gonna make you talk much. I just want to hear little things. What'd you do, Aaron? I mean, stranger. I don't know.
Cape Town.
You went to Cape Town. What were you doing there? Like going to the beach or?
Did beach, did safari.
Oh wow. Whoa. That's fabulous. Anyone else do anything with animals over the winter? I'm so sorry, though, that you lost your animal. What was the animal, if you don't mind me asking? A dog. Was it a big dog, little dog?
Big.
Oh, I'm so sorry. What was the dog's name? Nola. Like New Orleans. You know, I grew up in New Orleans. Guess what year I was born in? The machine don't work no more. Well, Jen, you'll fix your sound effects after the show. There's a sound effect for this. When I grew up in New Orleans, I was born in 1990. I was born on an airstrip. I was born under an airplane. It was a crash. It was a scary crash. My parents were on vacation. They were coming from South Africa. Have any of you been there? Anyone at all? One person. I went to South Africa when I lost my virginity. That's what I told my mom when she gave birth to me. I spoke to her through her guardian spirit. My mother has had a guardian horse that has followed her whole life. My mother, every challenging moment, every time she felt the heavy breath of death on her neck, she has heard a heavenly click-clock, 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 click-clock. Take, for example, when my mother had gastric bypass by accident. She was in to get her appendix out, and they gastric bypassed her instead. My poor mother is trying to be in recovery, eating as much food as she can, puking it up. Why can't I put any food down? Why can I not eat? My mother was 100 pounds when this happened. By the time she hit her bottom by the accidental bypass, she was 52 pounds, 6 feet tall. She was Linda Evangelista, and she was sitting in her knees in the bayou, asking herself, what is happening to me? Somebody help me, please. I'm about to lose it. She said, please, Lord. And it was the first time she heard the clip-clop of her spirit, and she looked up out of her knees, and she saw a horse. A white, creamy, muslin-y horse with little sticks for a tail and little stick mane and little dried roses and little mosses on its feet like it had walked out of the druid underworld. And it said to her, Morianne, Morianne, rip the band. Stretch the pouch, Marianne, stretch the pouch, Marianne. And without knowing what had come over her, she ate. She was next to a donut factory. And she grabbed the munchkins next to the Bayou Donut Factory, shoved as many munchkins as she could, and she stretched that pouch. She stretched that pouch. She stretched it! And she burst the gastric band. And her stomach was righted again. That was the first time my mother's guardian spirit, the horse, visited her. And when I was born, there my mother was. The plane crashed. They had just been on the safari, and my mother had this moral weight. How dare I pay to watch these lions be paraded around like kittens? Because I don't know if you know, in Ptown, the safari is not like other places. It is manicured like a Provincetown queen's beard. The lions have electric leashes on them, and they're paraded, and she said, I want these lions to be free. And as I was being born, she said to me, Laurel, when you come out, do not be held by restraints. Be free, Laurel. And then she felt my little heels clicking inside of her belly. And she heard me from inside her belly, Mother, I'll be free. 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 Do you know that the monkeys on the safari do that too? There was a monkey on that safari covered in net, and the monkey was hunted by a bull deer woman. By a woman who looked like she could model in a department store. And the monkey, whoo, to scare away its attacker, whoo. The monkey does that, and that's what I did when I faced my first attacker. It was in the 11th grade. I was 10 years old. Everyone hated me because I was the most brilliant student they had known since Oprah's cousin, Jeffrey. I skipped grades like you bitches skip rocks. I was doing AP chemistry algebra, and my attacker was in the last row of the school. And she was carrying cartons of Pokemon cards that she had stolen from me. Charizard, Luigi, Massimo, that I had fought for and spent years gathering. And she walked up to me during the middle of this AP chemistry exam, and she said, Laurel, what's 22 divided by science? And I said, I am trying to answer that as we speak. Leave me be. And she held up the card of Charizard, and she held up her lighter because she smoked like a dumbass. And she started to light fire to the color of my hair. And then I was about to lose because I almost knew what this number divided by science was. I had my secret calculator in my brain, figured it out, and I was about to lose my spot, and I didn't know. And all I knew from inside, I heard my mother say, Laurel, you will not live with chains. And I went, Roar! And my attacker pregnated. She got pregnant, and she birthed. In that attack, the spirit of the monkey impregnated, accelerated the birth by 9 months, and she gave birth on the floor of the AP chemistry algebra exam. And I took that baby and I raised it on my own. And I said, you do not deserve this baby. I deserve this baby. And I've raised that baby, and I still raise that baby, but guess what? Not in a home. I wouldn't dare insult that baby, that beautiful creature, that free creature who will not live in chains. I attached it to a weather balloon and I let her fly. And she directed herself, correct, to Harpo Studios, where she interned until the age of 12, where then she got a job with Chef Ramsay. Not Gordon, Forden, the Australian chef. And she has been working under him, slowly being prepared to take over that business. And that is the child that I raised. And that is why whenever I feel the attack, I go back to that initial moment, that initial crash. When I crashed into this earth, I heard in a meeting someone said that being in Provincetown, you can crash and burn, or you can crash like a phoenix. And I'm gonna fucking crash again on your asses right now and ride off into the sunset on a fucking horse like a fucking monkey. Ooh! And let any department store model body that produces anorexia in people to know that it is dumb and we are strong, bitches. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Laurel. How sweet. We will tip Austin at the end of this performance, just so everyone knows. So, my dears, yeah, as I said earlier, I'm the only person who can go to and fro from exile. And a lot of people, when I come back, it is kind of like when the Irish mob would come back in South Boston and all the kids would ask, "Who'd you shoot today? Who'd you kill today? What money did you get from killing more people today?" And that's how people are with me when I come back to exile, because all the exilanders, when I go to exile, all they want to know is, how is that tree on Commercial Street? And I have to tell them the Packard family cut it down. That's a warning to you all. I got my eyes on the trees. But yeah, so they're very excited for when I come back here. I'll have a lot to tell them. But they wanted me to give you this story. So this is a special episode of Exile that I wrote with our dear friends on Exile 420 Summers. And I'm very happy to be here, very thankful to be here. Do it with me, waves. Come on, Jorg. Randy, come on. It was another gorgeous day when the town's scryer stood on the bluffs and hollered out over the village as the sun snunk over the horizon. "And the May, quarter moon, ish, ish, what's an ish? Can life be an ish? Am I rushing to get things done? Am I rushing to finish? Am I rushing to get to the new moon to start again, to clean my slate? But what if all I need is the time to clean my slate? What if the time itself is the cleaning of the slate? What if the time is the paper towel that wipes it and the sponge that scrubs it clean? If I am rushing, am I here? Am I aware? If I'm rushing, can I see anything clearly? Can I see where I'm going? Ish? Oh, I think I stepped in some poison ivy. I got an ish. And the May 2023. During Worley Leviathan's first summer, her neighbors begged her to cut down the brown, decrepit tree in her yard. It was a hawthorn, and to the casual passerby it was quite dead. It was all brown, not even a corpse of a leaf was left. The only thing green that had been on the tree was the English ivy that had choked it to death. Worley hadn't planted the ivy at the base of the tree. That was the previous owner of her cottage. But once her wife died, she didn't have the strength to tend to it. She let it go wild, its vines verdantly slipping themselves about the tender parts, the tender breathing parts of the tree. Whirly resisted giving their hawthorn the chop. Her wife, Summer, had planted it the week after they bought their cottage in Ptown. That tree was summer to Whirly. At the height of its beauty, when the tree was in bloom, it was a waving dome of white flowers, shifting its ample hips in the breeze of the bay. It looked like a sexy, full-figured woman, dancing to soft Greek music, just like Summer did the night of their wedding. Whirly cut back the ivy and looked at the tree, her stomach and her pelvis. A part of her knew the tree was dead, but with summer having passed only a year ago, Whirly wasn't ready to let go just yet. She was still holding on hope. And this was exactly what her neighbors hated the most. Carmine, what is with these people? These people on this island are friggin' obsessed with dead plants. Clara, it's a horticulturalist, morticians, sadistic, masochistic, unballistic, anachronistic, fetish fantasy out here, and I have no idea how to verbalize it. One could see their point. There did seem to be an obsession with dead plants on the isle. Old Mafalda McIntosh did indeed have a bouquet of tulips on her table as dry as my ankle skin, given to her by Victor Rivet on Halloween in 1998, exactly 2 days before he was lost in a corn maze on the western side of the isle. Oh, Victor, I'll never be able to eat tortillas again. And up on the bluffs, on the more remote west side of the isle, shook a tiny Trader Joe's orchid that washed ashore, that old Mario Fontanelle climbed the winding path to once a week to water with an ice cube, as the label was still clear enough to suggest. What was left of the orchid was mostly just the stick the plant was attached to keep it standing. The plant didn't stand much of a chance anyway. The day Mario planted it, it was hit by a baseball bat that someone attached to an automatic Swedish massage chair that had once lived at the visitor center on the Welcome to New Hampshire border. Then there were the lady slippers that used to live behind Town Hall. They were destroyed when a drag family of drunk squirrels had lost their pumps and tried to wear the flowers, as their namesake suggested, for a pajama-themed show. For years, people waited to see if the lady slippers would grow back, but eventually, one by one, they lost hope. Marc LeBlanc gave up when his tarot cards suggested, when his tarot cards started commenting on it. 10 of Cups. Do the dishes and move on. Amelia LeBlanc gave up when her magic 8-ball started laughing at her. Wally, money in the bank, gave up when his Ouija board started spelling out, "Are you self-sabotaging so that you don't have to focus on your real problems and you can just focus on this inane thing that has no connection to your actual life, and then your phone's going to drop just like your heart will drop when you finally realize you've spent your life futilely waiting for something to happen you knew from the start was never going to happen?" But side note, after Wally's emotional Wall Street crash, he broke that cycle and is now partnered to a lovely woman, Cecily Brackets, who makes crutches for children with rickets. She delivers them by hope, releasing them into the air attached with balloons.
Go, heal, set the rickets free.
But it seemed Whirly was the most committed of all.
Hi, Whirly. How are you healing your tree today? Yeah, Whirly. How are you healing your tree? Yeah, Whirly. What are you doing today to heal your tree?
I thought I would try to bandage it. You know, give it some support like a compression stocking,
She said, covering the entire base in ace bandages, making the tree look like a mummy.
Well, Whirly, what about today? What are you doing today, Whirly? What are you doing different to heal your tree? Yeah, Whirly. What are you doing different to heal? Yeah, Whirly, like he said. What are you doing? Yeah, Whirly, like he said. What are you doing different to heal your tree today, Whirly?
I just read about deep tissue massage being great for moving lymph and bringing circulation to stagnant areas,
She said, her knuckles bleeding into the bark.
Well, Whirly, what about today? Whirly, what's different today you're making? Yeah, Whirly, how are you helping your dead tree today? Yeah, Whirly, like he said. What are you doing for your tree today? Yeah, Whirly, like he said. What are you doing for your tree today? Yeah, Whirly, like he said. What are you doing for your tree? Yeah, Whirly, are you doing something different? Are you going to have fun with your tree today? You're going to try to be emotional with your tree today. Whirly, what do you think? You're going to be nice or you're going to be stern like tough love? Whirly, what do you think you're going to do? You think you're going to be good for the tree today? So, Whirly, what do you think you're going to do?
Nothing, Whirly said, pouring a homemade elderberry cough syrup along the base of the roots. Whirly, dear, I think you should just accept that the tree is dead.
Clara, this tree will heal. It will. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care if it takes a decade. I don't care if it takes 2 decades.
Oh, Jesus Christ, save me from this hell. Clara, it's okay. We got the soaps playing on the projector later.
Carmine, I can't do with the soaps. I'm in my own soap.
At this, they all cried, and then went about their business. But poor Whirly stayed working on her tree. She was so badly hurt by the loss of her wife, and it seemed that she had been shoved out of reality by her death. And it was a bit harder to get back into the present than she thought. Whirly met her wife in 1981 on Memorial Day weekend, when both their rowing teams rented cottages across the street from each other on West Vine. Whirly was ripped and could pull a mean stroke with the shoulder size to prove it, and Summer was the little person that lays in the front of the boat squeaking out directions.
Harder on the left, less power from the right, and who isn't wearing deodorant?
The opposing teams, Whirlies were from UMass Amherst, Summers from UMass Dartmouth, had been eyeing each other for the first few days, but it wasn't until a sweet older lesbian gave the girls a 50-pack of Coors Light and suggested a game of chicken that they began to connect. They played chicken in the mid-tide, the girls switching whose shoulders they rode on, and Whirly and Summer were both moving closer to each other accidentally to end up in a pair. Eventually they did, and Summer was hoisted onto Whirly's shoulders, which felt like she was riding a camel sideways. The two dominated the competition, not only just because of Whirly's strength, but because Whirly closed her eyes and really listened to Summer's fabulous direction.
2 coming north by the northwest, 10 degrees, jump over them and turn, yes. All right, west by northwest, 20 degrees, face opposite and pretend you don't notice them. And when I squeeze your chest, jump and swivel, yes. All right, do a backflip.
They won chicken, and they won the roast chicken dinner at the Muse that was the prize. And they won, wait for the gag,
Each other's hearts.
They did long distance until they moved in together in Northampton after graduation. Classic. It only took a few more years of visits to Ptown before they decided to move. They took odd jobs to make it work, because Whirly and Summer were the type of people that were not motivated by career. They just wanted to live beautiful lives. And in Ptown they did. Whirly's real job, I guess you could say, was her carvings. She made beautiful, rustic, little icons of women and the moon and birds out of pieces of driftwood. And for Summer, her job was the garden. Summer is the one who tended the beds and did the pruning and the weeding. Summer was the one who kept back the ever-persistent ivy. And this is why in 2002, when Summer died of cancer, the ivy took over the hawthorn tree. Poor Whirly was obliterated by the death of her wife. She had spent the last 3 years taking care of Summer and had forgotten how to care for herself. She was a mess. And when an emotional mess has their cottage sold by their landlord and only has a few months to find housing in Ptown, that mess does not find housing in Ptown. Their little cottage down on Commercial near the split, at the beginnings of what I call affectionately West Eastham, where they had spent a life together, was demolished along with her neighbor's cottage when 2 queens purchased the property, built one single unfamily home that was stayed in twice a year. It was quite a dark place for Whirly when she packed up and prepared to go. She had moved into a friend's spare room while she looked for a place, but had finally given up. She felt her life no longer had direction. She was wide-eyed and aimless, and she aimlessly walked Commercial Street that night before she moved. She made her way to the West End parking lot and stood there. She stood there long enough to see the flashlight come from A, the exile's version of Sharon, from his boat, just out on the water, coming towards her, ready to bring her back home, out to exile. "But what about my stuff?" she asked. "Everything you need, everything you've lost, is out there on the aisle," A said. When she got to her cottage on Exile, she fell to the ground in tears. It was exactly as it was before they demolished it on the mainland. It was exactly the same, and still missing summer. She had held out hope that summer would be there. But while exile is in some way the other side, death is the other side that we don't have access to. And so her obsession with her tree continued all that first summer, and even into the next. She did everything she could to heal it. Her second season was just as manic as the first, and she decided to do emergency surgery on the tree. She hauled off the dead limbs and removed all the dead bark and scraped away all the rot she could find, all in a fever pitch. But when she was done, and she saw what she had done, she fell to the ground and wept. She basically whittled the tree down to its core, and she could finally see it was over. The tree was dead. After 3 years of watching Summer die and another 3 of heartbreak, it was time for her to live again. Summer would have wanted that. Summer was for living. So Worley started to leave the tree be. She moved on with her life. She started going for long walks at sunrise with a women's meditation club called the Sun Galutation Group. That's good. She started to grow some vegetables and make gorgeous meals for herself and friends. She joined a band called Chip Punk that played the Ramones in super high voices. And a few years later, she even started dating a masseuse in town, a woman named Jojoba Joyo. But all the while, she never forgot her wife. Worley took those old branches from the hawthorn tree and carved little statues of Summer. She managed one a season. She had made an altar to Summer, carving her into the heartwood of the hawthorn, and she placed the little carvings she did about the base. After some time, it was a hearty display. Then one day, in early summer, out in the yard doing her usual work cleaning the ever-persistent ivy, she looked up and the tree had a green shoot growing out of the bottom, from the roots. And she realized that even after these 2 decades, it was alive after all. The roots had survived. It was a sensation on the aisle. Everyone was thrilled about it. "Hey, did you hear about Worley's hawthorn tree? It's alive. Hey, did you hear about Worley's hawthorn tree? It's growing. Hey, did you hear about Wormy's tree? It's growing. Hey, did you hear the worms are growing? Hey, did you hear worms are spreading across the aisle? Hey, did you hear that worms are taking over the fucking aisle?" In all the excitement, even the neighbors forgot how much they wanted the tree to be cut down. They put the blame on anyone else. "Hey, remember, Carmine? You were going to hire that giant kid to ride his bike into it with a torch." Clara, I remember it was you that was rooting for killing that tree. You were the one who was going to accidentally make a Christmas ornament into a cherry bomb and put it on the branches." But the neighbors, in such a moment of beauty, learned to mind their own business and to not be bothered by something in someone else's yard. And to look inward and see why something like that causes no threat to them or their property causes so much internal distress. They all looked inward to see their resentment was more dissatisfaction within their own lives. And it was a mere projection onto their neighbors to distract them from their own internal imbalance. Just kidding. These people lived in Provincetown too long to ever not care about what their neighbors were doing. The new thing they hated was the boat Worley kept in her front yard. "Carmine, it's an eyesore. She never uses it. It just sits there." But Worley was changed, not by the new shoots that grew, but by the process of letting it happen. It was letting go that allowed the tree to grow. It was the contradiction of letting it die that allowed it to live. And all it took was a little pain and 2 decades. It took Worley 20 summers. Thank you so much. Oh.